Hi there, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive. I'm Lyndon Hosking, and always great to have you along for another edition of Dream Fights. And we had a big one last week with Larry Holmes and Lennox Lewis. We've got an even bigger one this week. I'm going to bring in my co-host for this episode, as always, Grant Tassie Brown and Mike Altamura. How are we, guys?
Good, thanks, Lyndon.
Good to, and Mike, you're obviously doing well. You've come off the big show on the weekend, got a little bit of sleep and feeling good, ready to go?
Yeah, there's actually 7 fighters I look over fought on the weekend. So I'm happy that we have a clear slate this week. I can catch my breath, come on air, chat with you gentlemen, have some fun talking fantasy fights, and just, return to a normal sleeping pattern.
Well, it was a ripper that we had last week, and I'll put up the results in a sec there, and then I'll obviously reveal this week's episode. But last week, as I said, was Larry Holmes and Lennox Lewis. Now, from memory, we all went for Larry Holmes, I think, from memory, on points.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, as always, what the hell do we know? Because the poll said 67% for Lennox Lewis, 33% for the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. And out of that 67%, I think 50-odd% was points. The other 16 or 17% was by knockout. So I don't know, guys. I'm open to maybe Lennox Lewis being able to win, but I couldn't see him knocking Larry Holmes out. No way. What do you reckon, Tassie?
It's like I always say, people don't know shit about
those
boxing.
TikTokers, isn't it?
I can get off the
He's in a good mood this week, Lyndon.
Get off the Netflix bloody crap shows and get off the crack pipe as well.
Yeah, it was interesting, Mike. I knew there might be some out there that might think Lewis would win. I mean, he's a great champion in his own right, but I was staggered when, and it was worse at one stage. I think it was like 85-15 at one stage. So it's amazing.
Hey,
it's familiarity. That's what it is with guys like Lewis, guys like Tyson, Mayweather, Pacquiao, etc. It's recent familiarity, which is what skews the way a lot of people perceive history.
What do you reckon, Tassie?
Mikey, you know why I'm quiet? You know why I'm relaxed tonight, Mikey?
I have no idea.
Because I spent 2 days with our brother Billy Hussein, and he zens me. He knows
serenity now.
He knows how to.
Yeah, Billy does have a calming influence.
He knows how to do that with me. So 2 days, Friday, Saturday with Billy H, and I'm now zenning. I can't promise I'll be like this tomorrow night or Thursday, but at the moment, I'm okay.
All right. So
next week when Peter returns, you're going to be totally chaotic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat his children. All praise be to Allah.
All right, guys. Well, let's get on to this week's episode.
Has Peter got kids?
I don't think he has. No, not that we know of.
I'll eat his nephews and nieces then.
All right. Okay. Well, on to this week's episode. Let's get into it. Dream Fights, and it was my pick this week. And I reckon I've come up with a pretty good one, boys. It is the real deal. Evander Holyfield up against Smokin' Joe Frazier. Now, I've been sitting on this one for quite some time. It's always been there, and there's just been other ones that I've had in front of it. But, Mike, what a ripper a fight this would have been if they had actually fought.
I love it. I think that, look, both guys fought fighters that were similar to the other. Probably more so with Evander. Evander had fought Dwight Cowie twice. Short, nuggety guy, good left hook. Tyson, obviously, shorter fighter. Evander fought a few guys kind of in that mold. Frazier, probably you got to go outside the context. But say Oscar Bonavena, strong, physical, in your face. So I think it's a tantalizing matchup because stylistically they mesh well. I know a lot of people historically think that Evander was a blown-up cruiserweight to heavyweight, but if you look at Frazier turned pro at, I think it was 203 pounds. So I think the heaviest weight of Frazier's career was 217 or 218, so he wasn't a big heavyweight either.
Which is only about, 99 kilos, maybe 100 kilos?
Yeah, and only 5'11". Holyfield 6'2", a bit longer, a bit leaner when they started out, but Frazier wasn't a big heavyweight by any stretch.
No, it wasn't. And Tassie, we'll just have a quick look at Holyfield's record before I let you comment there. So he ended up with 44, 10 and 2, 29 KOs. Very, very misleading as far as that record goes, because up until the last few years, he was very, very hard to beat and only lost a couple of fights. But you can see there, WBA, WBC and IBF Cruiserweight champion, was the same at heavyweight. You can see there, won them multiple times. A couple of his, or a few of his biggest wins there, the 15-round decision over Dwight Muhammad Kawi, obviously beat him a second time. The knockout of Buster Douglas, the decision over George Foreman, had the win over Riddick Bowe, also had the losses against him as well. The decision over Ray Mercer. The knockout of Tyson, of course, the follow-up, which I suppose is hard to grade because of the result. And then, of course, the 12-round decision over Michael Mora. And an International Boxing Hall of Fame inductee in 2017. What a champion this guy was, Tassie.
Yeah, what can you say about Evander Holyfield? I mean, look, he was classified as a blown-up cruiserweight, but the guy's heart was bigger than anyone's. I mean, he was Olympic bronze medalist, should have won gold, obviously. Both these gold. Fraser won gold. Holyfield should have won gold, was disqualified against our good Kiwi mate. But he unified the cruiserweight division, and he's went up to heavyweight, very muscular, very fit guy. Not a massive puncher, but put his punches in bunches. Great chin. Just a great heart. I kept waiting for Holyfield to sort of, I don't know, he just kept mixing it with these big guys. And the fights with Bowe, 3 fights of Big Daddy Bowe, who I rate as, Bowe, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, that probably never see his worth. But Bowe was, to have 3 fights of Bowe, 2 fights of Lennox Lewis, big guys who were in their prime, who were legends of the sport. I mean, look at Lewis. I mean, and then we think he didn't get the fight at prime Tyson, but he still fought an okay Tyson. And look what he done. I mean, he probably does that to Tyson, probably, I don't know, any day. He got the revenge over Mora, the win over Mercer, like you said. The draw, the rematch lost to Lewis. It could have been a make-up call for the judges because of the draw. Mate, he was in that fight. It was very close. Coming back and beating Bowe in the second fight. Having Bowe gone in the third fight. But then just not going for the knockout. We learnt later he had heart problems and energy level problems. But this guy just fought. He was David against Goliath all the time. Look at him now. Look at the exciting punches, flurries, the chin and the heart of Evander Holyfield. Just a legend, mate. Like, he done more than he probably should have at heavyweight, given his size and that. But, gee, look what he done, mate. He just, I love Holyfield. Yeah. Amazing.
Mike, I sort of look at Holyfield as we'll call him a legacy fighter, where he's one of those fighters who forget the record, throw out the window, judge him on the amount of guys he fought and the results of those big fights. And as Tassie said, 2 fights with Lewis, 3 fights with Bowe. He's got Holmes and Foreman and Mercer and you name it, all in there. You could go on and on and on with Douglas and all the guys he's fought. But that's what's, I think, was so great about him. He fought every single quality heavyweight of his era. Won some, lost some. But just what a fighter he was as far as his legacy goes.
Well, I think you take 10 fights out either side of his career, which, by the way, right at the end of his career, he was good enough to arguably defeat Nikolai Valuev for the world title and was deprived of a final version of the world title, which would have been the WBA heavyweight strap. But take 10 fights out either side of his career, and everybody he fought was pretty much elite in that, from when he captured his first world championship at cruiserweight till when he was completely post-prime fighting for versions of the heavyweight title, he ducked nobody. And here, I noted before, short guys similar to Joe Frazier he fought. This is one of them that I forgot. Burke Cooper, who actually started out as a Joe Frazier protege, which is why you see
100%.
similarities there. Cross-arm defense, crouching like Frazier. And Cooper actually gave Holyfield a lot of trouble.
He did. I think, did he almost drop him, I think?
He wobbled him with a right hand for a count in the third round. The rope saved
And
Evander.
I don't want to change the subject. What about Bert Cooper, Michael Mora?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bert Cooper was a dangerous fighter and schooled out of, Joe Frazier's gym. That's where his fundamentals were structured.
Yeah.
But, to me, Evander's legacy now is being a little bit underappreciated because people just look at the number and minimalize what he achieved. But, in the late 90s, say 98, early 99, before the Lennox Lewis, the first bout with Lewis, historically, he was perceived as the third greatest heavyweight ever after Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali. That's where that generation rated him. I'm not saying that's fact or not. To me, he's top 6 or 7 guaranteed. But what he achieved as a considerably smaller man on heart, desire, on ring nous, infighting ability, it's incredible, especially what he accomplished post-prime.
Yeah, and one thing, again, I said about the legacy thing with him as well. One thing I'd really admired about him looking back, excuse me, is when he went from cruiserweight to heavyweight, he didn't just he could have knocked out a whole heap of stiffs. He fought James Tillis, who was a journeyman, let's face it, but he was a tough, durable journeyman who everyone fought. But then he fought Michael Dokes, former world champion, knocked him out. I think he fought Alex Stewart and gave him his first loss as well. So he was just never scared to take on the best all the time, and that's what I respect about him the most. Is that he just did not care who they were, their reputations, records, size. He just took everyone on. So that's why I think, as I said, he's a legacy fighter, and why we've matched him up with Frazier here, because it just would have been an unbelievable fight. Speaking of Frazier,
that's why, Lyndon.
Sorry, Tazzy, go ahead.
That's why his nickname's a real deal, because he was the real deal.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, Tazzy, we'll have a look at Fraser's record. Smokin' Joe Fraser, 32-4-1 with 27 KOs. Won the both versions of the title back in 1970, WBA, WBC. You can see his biggest fights there were against Jerry Quarry, Jimmy Ellis, Bob Foster. He had the trilogy with Muhammad Ali, of course. 2 fights with George Foreman. Beat Joe Bugner and inducted in the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. So Tazzy, he's probably hasn't got the resume of Evander Holyfield, but just the fact that he had Ali and Foreman there by themselves has got to account for a lot.
Yeah, he's got some. He's got probably not quantity. He's got quality though. Obviously, he was Olympic gold medalist. He won obviously the title in Ali's absence, and then won the, what do they call, the fight of the century? The win over Ali. Vicious left hook, great head movement, had that sort of peekaboo style, and he made it work for him. Obviously he lost to Foreman, as you said, but win over guys like Ellis, very good fighter. Yep. Buster Massive was good then. Buster Mathis. Bugner was a very good fighter. I mean, look, he dominated, mate. And then the 3 fights of Ali, the last one where closest thing Ali said was to death was the one was going to sort of quit before the other, and Fraser was the one to end it. But I mean, look, just a legend, mate. Vicious punch with bad intentions, and was a lot smaller, again, like Holyfield, similar sort of size, but fought a lot of big guys. He used to bring them down, mate, like a very great heavyweight legend. Bob Foster was a light heavyweight legend as well. Didn't go as good at heavyweight in the big fights. Was only the good fighters beat Bob Foster at heavyweight. But Fraser was just a beast. But the 3 fights of Ali, that overshadows most, that Holyfield done.
Yeah, and that Jimmy Ellis fight, Mike, was actually in St Kilda in Melbourne, which was another little tidbit there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. I mean, so of the 2, he's the only one ever to fight in Australia. And just on an extra note to what Taz was saying too, I think that maybe because of lack of historical familiarity with some people, but less bouts back in that era, so people aren't remembered as world champions or that. But Frazier beat Oscar Bonavena from Argentina twice, which both those wins hold up historically. Very solid wins. The TKO 11, which was for the New York State Athletic Commission World Heavyweight title. in Ali's absence. Vietnam War sit-out absence. That was actually an Olympic revenge or Olympic qualifier revenge. So, for context, Joe Frazier lost in the box off to Buster Mathis. Buster Mathis, I believe, attained a thumb injury in the lead up to the Olympics. Joe Frazier replaced him. Joe won the gold. So
Didn't know that.
he proved he was a better fighter
that.
in the pros by avenging his amateur loss to Mathis. And the one thing when you look at Joe's resume, similar to Holyfield, I don't think he ducked anybody. Of the prominent heavyweights in the 70s, the only one you can really look at and recall him not fighting is Ken Norton, and that's because they were best friends.
Oh, is that?
You know, he stepped in twice with George Foreman. After getting obliterated by Foreman once, who's crazy enough to jump back in there?
Yeah. And what was the second result? I think it was a 4th round knockout, I think, wasn't it?
4th or 5th, I think it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, he beat Jerry Quarry as well. He was a good fighter at that time. You know, and George Chevallo, another good heavy at that time.
Yeah, you can only obviously beat, you know, in your era, I suppose. And like you said, Mike, it was only really Ken Norton that he didn't fight. But do you think, Mike, the fact that the Muhammad Ali first fight alone, and probably you could go to the third fight as well, but that first fight alone, I know we probably didn't ever see the best of Muhammad Ali, but back then he was undefeated. He'd had a couple of warm-up fights. It was, as I said, the fight of the century. That alone should give Fraser mammoth brownie points as far as his ranking in the historical ranking.
Oh, definitely. Look, that cements his place in history. He won the fight of the century.
Yeah.
You got to look at that. You got to look at the buzz. You got to look at the pressure. It was 2 Olympic gold medalists, both undefeated, and he won decisively over 15 rounds against Ali that night. There was no one disputing the outcome of the bout. So you have to give Fraser credit. The other thing is too, you look at, like, context matters to me. This was a small guy, and I know that, say, Bob Foster moving up from light heavyweight, I know it was a different era, but, you know, in this day and age, say the Foreman bout, Fraser would build to that. Fraser would have been cruiserweight world champion and would have physically built to fight guys like Foreman. So you've got to respect the fact that what he was achieving was really in an open weight era of boxing too.
Yeah, it was. And Tassie, even the fact that after what happened to him against Foreman, as Mike said, not only got back into the ring with Foreman, but then fought Ali in the Thriller in Manila. And like you said before, very unlucky. Could have gone either way. It was whoever's corner stopped it first in the end. But I think that third fight also cemented his greatness as well.
Ali and Fraser, their names are entwined forever.
Yeah.
You can't speak about one, not the other. And I mean, it just an unbelievable heart, unbelievable fighter, unbelievable power. I mean, we're really only talking about one real convincing loss was to a monster in George Foreman who had size, youth. You know, Foreman's, you know, a monster in any era.
Yeah.
It's the only person to obliterate Fraser. So Fraser, I think he's a lot better fighter than his friend Ken Norton. No disrespect to Ken, but look, yeah, Fraser's one of the all-time greats. This is a very good pick, Lyndon, because you got 2 legends, both stylistically similar sizes, which are both a bit small for heavyweight. Both different eras, obviously. Both fought 2 of the biggest names in each era. I mean, Holyfield fought Tyson, who, you know, Tyson's, you got to say, the biggest heavyweight after the Ali Holmes era. Fraser fought Ali, the biggest name of all time. And then you still got some good fighters because you got, you know, Holyfield fighting Lewis and Bowe, Fraser fighting the great George Foreman. You know, it's a really, really good matchup. Really, really good matchup.
Good stuff. Well, Mike, we're going to get you to kick things off
for
tonight.
For once, Lyndon. For once.
Thank you, Tassie. I can't remember who my last one was, but
fucking, it was, what's his name? It was bloody
who?
Dennis Hogan versus Canelo or something.
I think it was Sugar Ray Leonard and Oscar De La Hoya, actually. So I reckon that was a pretty good one myself, but there might have been another one.
Solid.
Thrown in there.
It was.
All right, Mike, kick us off, mate. Evander Holyfield, Joe Fraser. We'll make it. Let's go. Should we make it a 15-round fight? I didn't actually throw that in there. The actual.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
I'm fine with 15 because
15
Holyfield had
rounds.
fought
Madison Square Garden, let's put it there. The old historical home of boxing for the world heavyweight title. Who wins and why?
Good question. I look at this and I think stylistically it'll be a nip and tuck fight, but I think that the fight comes down to one factor. At any point in the fight, can Holyfield control the center of the ring, and can he push back Joe Frazier how he did Mike Tyson, like he did Kawi? If Holyfield can gain control of the middle of the ring, the smaller guys he didn't have too much problem with throughout his career. I know he had shaky moments. Like I said, with Cooper, he had a shaky moment. Kawi, first time in a 15-rounder, like if you look at going the distance, inexperience, and he still won 9-6, thereabouts, that fight. Corrected it in the rematch, knocked him out in 4 rounds. I thought with Tyson, especially the first bout, after withstanding the early storm, he got stronger and stronger. And we know it wasn't a prime Tyson, but it's not Holyfield's fault. He was ready for what's considered a prime Tyson. Tyson lost to Douglas. Holyfield took care of Douglas. I think Fraser can have a lot of success with the left hook. If you can't get the jab going, I think Holyfield can work him out. I think Holyfield knows to sit on Frazier's opposite shoulder. I think he sits on his right side. I think he tries to force him to lunge on that side. If he doesn't have success there, he gets inside and starts pushing him back. And Holyfield, to me, is one of the all-time greatest infighting heavyweights, especially against someone that physically he can match. I think that's the difference in the fight. I see 9 rounds to 6 thereabouts. Holyfield pulling away late and winning the fight.
Okay, all right. Tassie, how do you see it, mate? Holyfield, Fraser, who wins?
Yeah, I've got to go with Joe Fraser, Smoking Joe. I just think that guys like Bert Cooper, who's a poor man's Fraser, can hurt Holyfield. What would Joe Fraser do? I mean, Holyfield was a great fighter, as I said, mate. But Joe's pressure, Joe's left hook, inside fight himself, his head movement, constantly slipping Holyfield's jab. He beat the great Ali. I know Ali came back after the war, but I think that his pressure on Holyfield and Holyfield, not being able to really beat convincingly guys like Larry Holmes and Foreman who were past their best, like tough fights with them guys. When I say beat convincingly, he won the fights, but really he should have been getting guys out of there. If he, I said I love him. I gave him a massive rap with the fights with Bo and Lewis. I think Fraser, mate. I think Fraser stops him late.
Okay.
Between 12 and 15. I think he just keeps the pressure, the power shots, and I really do. I think Fraser takes advantage. Also, too, like Mike said, on the other side though, takes advantage of a guy similar size. I think Holyfield's a bit bigger, but takes advantage of a smaller guy, and gets him out of there.
Okay, so 1-1. So I'll be the tiebreaker. Look, I probably tend to agree with both of you, but I'm going with Mike here. I think that I think the fight would be, in my opinion, almost a carbon copy of the Tyson fight without the stoppages or the stoppage at the end of it. I think that Holyfield, who was very good, very, very good tactically, I think he had a way in negating those bigger guys and obviously the smaller guys in Tyson as well. I think he would, like you said, Mike, I think he would control the centre ring. He would sides off to, he would get away from that hook obviously, but he's got the off to the side movement as well, so he wouldn't stand in front of Fraser. I think he'd be potting him off and then off to the side and not giving Fraser that ability to launch that big hook. Would not be easy by any means, don't get me wrong. I think he would actually give Holyfield a tougher fight than what Tyson did. I think he'd be in his face. Yeah. Like you said, Tassie, that left hook would be banging him to the head, banging him to the body. He'd be roughing him up inside. He had a better work rate than Mike Tyson. But I think that's the reason why I'm going with Holyfield, because Holyfield's one of the only few heavyweights I think that could actually go with Fraser as far as work rate goes. Because I don't think there's been a harder working heavyweight that I've ever seen. Apart from instead of these guys, I think they're both the work rate's so high. But I think it'll be a great fight. I think I'm with you, Mike. I think 9 rounds to 6, maybe even 8 rounds to 7. But I think Holyfield will do enough to hold Smoke and Joe off. I think he'd bust his face up a lot as well. And I think he'd get the job done. So I'm going to say... sorry, Tazzy?
I think. Look, Holyfield's obviously the better boxer out of the two. Holyfield can box. He can move like he did against Bo in the rematch. He can. But comparing to Tyson hasn't got the heart of Fraser.
Yeah.
He might have a style, but he hasn't got the heart.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Tyson quits.
Yeah.
Fraser's got to get. No, I love Mike. Don't get me wrong, but Tyson quits. Fraser's got to get knocked out to lose.
Yeah.
There's no Mike Tyson.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
But
as
listen,
I said,
I can't argue with both of you guys because this is a 50-50 fight.
Yeah.
And I can see both arguments, so I'm not going to even. I'm not even going to sort of start anything because I agree. I just see Fraser winning. Just I think, but look, it's a 50-50 fight, but he's no Mike Tyson.
Yeah, no, and that's what I said in regards to Mike Tyson. I think that Fraser would be a harder fight for Holyfield than what Tyson was because of that reason. His stamina, let's face it, Tyson wasn't overly, not later in his, mid to late career anyway. He didn't have great stamina and endurance where Fraser did. He kept coming and coming and coming, even if he had nothing left. And we saw that in the Thriller in Manila as well, where he just would not give up and he just kept coming. So that's why I think he'd be a tougher fight than what Tyson was. And but if anyone could match the heart of Fraser, it's Evander Holyfield. He's just that guy, and I think it'll be a great fight, back and forth, all action fight. And as I said, I just think Holyfield might have the tools to get over the line. So, but again, guys, that's what I think what makes these fights the best is when there's good discussion, there's no arguments, and we can obviously all see each other's point of view. And
if Peter was here, he would have argued.
Yeah, we've got to get Pete back on. I think I've got to say, mate, you've took a couple of swings at him since he's been off for the last week or so. I think it'd be good to get him back so he can retaliate a little bit.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, what can I say? I kick his ass in every quiz now. I mean, he wants the quiz questions the day before.
I know that's a bit of a sore point with you, and he'll be back next week.
If he didn't put a big song and dance on about getting beat, I'd just go full respect. But lately, Lyndon, you've really been whinging after getting beat. I don't like getting beat. I know. But I don't whinge. He really likes to whinge.
Well, we can take that up when he's back next week for the quiz. But
maybe
Mike,
I don't. Yeah.
Now you're off in a couple of weeks, so we're going to give you another crack at it before you go. Have you had a bit of a think about who you might want for next week's dream fight?
Yeah, I'm hoping this is not a fight you guys ran in my absence. I'm pretty sure you haven't though. So I wanted to bring it back to Australia since we have such a strong listenership in our homeland.
Yep.
Jason
light heavyweight.
Julian Jackson.
Light heavyweight. Jeff Harding versus Danny Green.
Ooh, Jeff Harding, Danny Green at light heavyweight. No, we haven't had that one. Great matchup.
I just think stylistically it's a 10 out of 10 fight.
Yeah. Geez, that's you can see a bit of blood being spilled in that one, Tazzy.
It's a great fight, Mike. I've actually thought about this myself. Yep. Both light heavyweight. Greeny won a world title, light heavyweight. So did Hitman. 2 Aussies. It's a great fight.
Yeah. Excellent pick, Mike. And I do like the Aussie ones. Apart from
and can we do it like this, Mike? Yeah. Can it be Johnny versus Jeff, or who's in the corner?
Danny won his world title with Salas in the corner. So, if you want to take the twist of Johnny versus Jeff, I'm staying out of that one. I love both guys. I don't want any drama with John or Jeff, either guy.
I train under both guys. I love both guys.
Well, Mike, give us the terms: location, rounds, weight. I know it's probably going to be light heavyweight, of course. Location
Sydney.
And rounds.
Yeah, I think it has to be Sydney. Same like Acer Arena, Sydney, 12 rounds, light heavyweight world title. Pick the title, but let's say WBC.
WBC, we'll make it Harding's WBC title. Great fight, Mike. I love that one. So make sure you tune in next week. A little bit of it to think about for that one. But I hope you enjoyed this one. 2 out of 3 have gone for Evander Holyfield to beat Joe Fraser in a very, very tough and close encounter. So let us know what you think. It's been great because not a lot of you hesitate to let us know that we don't know anything about boxing some of the time. So bring it on.
Who?
Happy to hear it.
Who?
I get a few
Who?
comments every now and then, mate, but
Yeah,
it's all good.
guess what? Fuck you.
Thanks for joining in, guys. We'll see you next week. Hey, fellas.